Thank you all for coming. My name's Milligan. I'm the Communication Manager for Highlands Council and the Candidate Forum producer. I've worked here in Blakely Hall with Christy Garrard, our Executive Director, who's sitting in the back, the only one who has permission to sit back there. And Highlands Council owns and operates Blakely Hall, this venue for tonight's event. So thank you for coming to our hall and participating in this. Several of you have sent in questions, and our moderator has curated them and will present them to the candidates this evening. I want to thank our sponsors, which are Highlands Council and the Issaquah Reporter. I also want to thank the City of Issaquah for their AV support and for putting this through Issaquah Community TV. We will be sharing the video to all the community near the end of the week or by the first of next week at the latest. I also want to thank our volunteer timekeeper up in the front row, Madeline Kane. Thank you very much for coming and doing this really hard job of keeping track of time here. It's no small task. And I'd also like to thank Renee Zimmerman and introduce her to you now. She's been on the volunteer team for candidate forums ever since we began several years ago with the city council and mayor's race here. Last year we did the U.S. House of Representatives, and here we are back with city council, and so glad to be hyper-local again. Renee Zimmerman and her family were one of the first families to move to Issaquah Highlands in 2000, way back when, and they've been engaged members of the community ever since. Among Renee's professional endeavors here in Issaquah, Renee was the executive director of Highlands Council right here at Blakely Hall from 2007 to 2009. Renee also served as the executive director of the Issaquah-based Eastside Baby Corner for 4 years. Currently, Renee is the Community Projects Manager for Puget Sound Energy, and we are pleased to have Renee volunteer to moderate tonight's City Council Candidate Forum. Renee worked with our forum team to gather up the questions, as I said, and curate them for this evening's topics. And if you could all join with me, let's give Renee a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Nina, and good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Candidate Forum tonight for the Issaquah City Council positions. Now, tonight's Candidate Forum focuses on hyper-local politics, where I will ask questions of these candidates, questions that are important to you, our voters. Now, we asked, just as Nina had said, we asked our community to submit some questions. So the questions that we have, we may get through between 2 to 4 of them. They were based on questions that were submitted to us from the community. Now, this evening, we do have 2 candidates that are running unopposed, and so we felt that it was important as voters that you also hear from them and understand why they are running, even though they will not be answering any of the questions. So after each introduction that I will give of these 2 candidates, I will invite them to come up here to the lectern, and they will each have 3 minutes, and Madeline will be taking the timing for that to make sure that we stay on time. So for position number 4, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Lindsey Walsh. Appointed this last February, Lindsey currently serves as an Issaquah City Council member and sits on the council infrastructure as well as the services and safety committees. Prior to that, she served 2 years on the Policy Planning Commission. She's a small business owner, mother of 2, and a 10-year resident of Issaquah. Please give a warm welcome and help me welcome Lindsey Walsh.
Well, I think Renee has introduced me. That was the beginning of my speech. So I am coming here. I was appointed to City Council for position number 4 for Bill Ramos's seat when he moved up to the state legislature. That happened in February, and as it is an appointment position, anytime you have an appointment, you have to go in front of the voters at the next election cycle. So I'm up for election. No one has filed against me, so it's an unopposed race. But I will be up on the November ballot and then will serve the community for the following 4 years. So I've been involved with the city. The previous 2 years I was on the Planning Policy Commission, which is the area that works on long-term planning for the city. I really care about the future of the city, seeing the buildings, and everything developed in the way that the community wants it to happen. Serving on the City Council in the Infrastructure and Services and Safeties Committee, my goals are to look at quality of life issues. Everything that matters to us as a community, and making sure that we're investing our money in the ways that are appropriate in order to address the issues that we can address. Many of the things that we see as a community that are the big issues that we care about, traffic, affordable housing, those are things that we're not going to be able to solve on our own. But I think we need to make an effort to put together plans that will help with that, use our budget wisely, and be able to listen to the community and understand what's important to you. So toward that idea, my email address is, that's actually my election stuff, but my candidate email address is Lindsey, Lindsey@issaquah.gov. I highly encourage you to reach out. The City Council's general email that goes out to everybody is citycouncil@issaquah.gov. We would love to hear from you. And so if you have a concern either on something that's up for discussion in the city, or there's something that's really important to you and you feel like it's not being addressed, send us an email. Let's talk. Let's have coffee and discuss, because I think it's really important that as City Council we are addressing your needs. So thank you, and we look forward to hearing for the other candidates who will be our coworkers coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lindsey. So for position number 6, I'd like to introduce to you Victoria Hunt. Victoria is also a current Issaquah City Council member appointed back in February 2018. She serves as a chair of the Council Land and Shore Committee. Her professional experience includes being a data scientist and a statistician. Victoria holds her PhD in computational ecology, as well as an MS in animal breeding and genetics, and her BS in biology. Please help me welcome Victoria Hunt.
Thank you to the Highlands Council and for everybody who helped organize this event, and thank you all for being here. My name is Victoria Hunt. Issaquah is growing and changing rapidly. This makes leadership very important at this time for the city. And why I'm running is because I see serving on the Issaquah City Council as a way to make a positive impact on the day-to-day lives of people in the community, and to have a positive impact on this city that I've lived in for the last 6 years and that I truly love living in. As your council member since 2018, I have worked with neighborhoods to develop neighborhood-specific solutions to issues, such as working on the traffic calming pilot project for the Old Town neighborhood. I've also worked on addressing affordability issues in our city. We have a lot more work to do, but for example, I have taken action to make it easier to build accessory dwelling units, which is one way that we can have more affordable options in our city. And I'm also very proud to have been a champion for the acquisition of 46 acres of forested hillside named the Bergsma property on Cougar Mountain. And this truly represented a change from business as usual. This acquisition will represent a huge public benefit as transit accessible open space, and it was supported by the community and community groups such as Save Cougar Mountain. I think that we need more partnership with the community, such as the effort that led to this acquisition going forward. As was mentioned in my introduction, I am a data scientist and I have a background in science. I enjoy using data to make decisions, and I feel that's very important. And I'm also a mom of 2 kids. I have a very supportive husband named Kevin who makes it possible for me to do all that I do. And I served on council for about 1.5 years, and my son, when I first started on council, was 6 months old. So I point this out because if you are interested in civic engagement, or if you're interested in getting involved, but you have a lot of other things going on in your life, or you may have other reservations about getting involved and about civic engagement, please do reach out. Having more voices in the conversation will make the conversation better, and it will truly make us better able to represent all of the diverse voices in our community. The phone number on the city website is my personal cell, so if you call, I will get back to you. And let's work together to preserve the qualities that make Issaquah an amazing place to live. Our welcoming community feel, our vibrant businesses, and our truly beautiful natural setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Now, before I introduce to you our contested candidates, I'd like to remind everyone about the City of Issaquah's council structure. This photo right here is our current city council members before Bill Ramos resigned his position when he became state legislator and before Lindsey Walsh was appointed. Now, the City of Issaquah operates under a mayor-council form of government. In this form, the elected mayor serves as the city's chief administrative officer, and an elected 7-member council serves as the city's legislative body. The council's mission is to provide effective city government representation for its citizens, determine policy, enact ordinances and resolutions, approve contracts, and authorize the payment of all obligations incurred by the city. Now, after reviewing the administration's revenue estimates and expenditure requests, it is the responsibility of council to adopt an annual budget. So with that context, let me go over the ground rules for this evening's questions and the forum. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer the question, and I will alternate between who will be answering the question first. And I would like to also remind the candidates that this is a forum, it is not a debate, so therefore please do not target any of your opponents with your answers because there will be no opportunity for any rebuttals. I also want to let you know that I respect your time and I respect all of our audience's time. So today it is our pleasure to have a timekeeper, Madeline, you can raise your hand, and so she will help us keep us in line and make sure that we do stay on time. So I'm going to go over the timing so that you can see how the timing is going to go, and if you have any questions, please let me know. So during your 1-minute opening statement, Madeline will show you the green card to start at 1 minute, so go ahead and show that. So she'll hold that up while you're speaking, and then when 30 seconds is left, she will hold up the yellow card, and then when the red card comes up, you got to be done. Otherwise, I will be stopping you, because I'm really wanting to make sure that we keep this on time. And then during your 2 minutes, you'll have 2 minutes to answer any of the questions that we will get through. And so and as well as your closing statement. So each of those you'll get 2 minutes. So this is how it will go. So Madeline, you will hold the green card at 2 minutes when they start, and she'll hold that up continuously. And then the darker green at 1.5 minutes, when you have 90 seconds left. And then the light green at 1 minute. And then at yellow, 30 seconds. And then at around that time, wrap up your answer, because then when your time is up, there's the red card. Any questions? Does that sound good? Sounds good, okay. Is everybody ready? Let's hear some noise. Is everyone ready to have this? All right. Let's go ahead and meet our candidates for this evening. So I'm going to do these in chunks between the 2 positions. And so the first group of candidates that are running are for position number 2. And so I'm going to introduce you, and after I introduce you, you will then give your 1-minute opening statement. Michele Kemper. Michele and her husband have lived in Issaquah for over 20 years, currently residing here in Issaquah, Highlands. She holds an executive MBA. Michele served on the City of Issaquah's Urban Village Development Commission and as an executive director on several nonprofit board of directors in youth and health services. She is retired from a management career of 35+ years in the financial services industry as vice president and chief compliance officer. Please help me welcome Michele Kemper.
Do I need to push a button? No, apparently not. I'm live.
You're
Okay,
good.
I'm good. So my name is Michele Kemper. As was mentioned in my intro, I am going to be bringing the business experience candidate to this platform. As it was said, I've got 35 years in the industry as a chief compliance officer working with state and federal regulators, bringing decision makers to the table to make tough decisions on consumer protection issues on very complex financial products. I understand the leadership issues of bringing these entities to a table to make informed and timely decisions. I also have over 20 years working with nonprofits, working focused on family and youth issues. I understand the social services issues of our community. I am a wife, a mother, and a senior citizen. I have lived the affordable issues of our community. I haven't studied them, I have lived them. Affordable housing, daycare, transportation, catastrophic medical bills, and ever-raising taxes. I understand the stress and frustrations of families in our community. My husband and I have lived here for over 20 years, and we are personally invested to see the vital business economy for our location. It is with a vital and growing business that we can support an infrastructure of a city that is the sparkling place for our community families who want to live, work, play, and learn here, a place proud to be called home. Let me close by saying one of the most important things I think we can do to serve our community is to run for public office, and I am ready to serve. I am ready to step forward with my business background, my personal living life experiences, and a talent for digging into and through the rhetoric on complex issues to get to the heart of an issue, to solve the problem, and move to implementation. We have planned the plan. It is time for implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. Zach Hall. Zach has lived in Issaquah for over 22 years in the South Cove neighborhood, having graduated from Issaquah High School, as well as earning his BS in biology. Professionally, Zach currently works as a legislative assistant for the Washington State House of Representatives. He has managed local political campaigns and worked in nonprofit tax research. Please help me welcome Zach Hall.
Thanks very much, Renee. I'm Zach Hall. I'm a candidate for position 2, an open seat on the Issaquah City Council. I got in this race because Issaquah needs fresh, forward-thinking, community-minded leadership. We need leaders with unique perspectives and proven track records organizing in the community, and that's what I bring to the table. Now, I grew up here in Issaquah, like Renee said, and I've chosen to make a home and spend the rest of my life here in our best of the Northwest town. But right now, the city is failing me and many, many others like me. An entire generation of young Issaquah residents that want to stay in the community that they love. New families who want to move into the Issaquah School District because of how great it is. Seniors living on fixed incomes are struggling every day. It's time for a new perspective and a new voice on the city council, and I gotta believe that that comes from executing policies that improve on our quality of life, that care for our environment and lower our carbon footprint, that promote affordable housing and options for residents of all incomes, and get us around town more quickly and more safely. Thank you very much for having me tonight, and I'm really looking forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Zach. Now we'll introduce to you our candidates for position number 3. Tim Flood. Tim has lived in Issaquah for the past 7 years with his wife Lauren and 2 daughters, also in the South Cove neighborhood. He serves on the Issaquah Traffic Task Force as the South Cove HOA president, is CERT trained on the Washington Conservation Voters Endorsement Committee, the Issaquah Park Board Committee, Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, and regularly volunteers at various community events. Professionally, Tim is a global security showcase director and program manager in the software industry. He earned his MBA in IT management, has a BS in business administration, and a Graduate Award of Achievement. Please help me welcome Tim Flood.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad I updated my website so thoroughly for you. So thank you to the Highlands Council, all the sponsors, to Renee, to Nina, to everyone for being here. I'm running for City Council because my family and I absolutely love the city of Issaquah, and we want it to be our forever home. I think that my experience serving on the Traffic Task Force has given me a unique, in-depth knowledge of the projects and the options we have to address the biggest issue that we face. I think serving as HOA president has given me unique insight into managing a community budget, making some tough decisions that don't necessarily make everyone happy. I think that my experience and degrees in the business world make me an ideal city council member to actually integrate and foster a business community that provides opportunities and can potentially lure good-paying jobs back to the city a little bit. So my campaign is focused on improving mobility, protecting our green spaces, ensuring development pays its fair share, when possible, partner with developers that want to be a partner with our community, not just turn a profit, and fostering a business community that creates business opportunities, good paying jobs in the city, and helps us have a diverse tax base that's the envy of a lot of our neighbors. For each of these priorities, I have relevant experience, tangible ideas. Hopefully I can get into a couple of those tonight or speak with anyone that's interested after the forum this evening. And with that, I'll just say thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tim. Barbara D. Michele. Barbara has been a resident of Issaquah for the past 35 years. She holds a BA and an MS in English education. Prior to retiring and currently serving as a part-time business manager for The Garage, a teen cafe, Barbara's profession was in communications and public relations for the Issaquah School District, and after that, community relations planner for the King County Department of Transportation. Her volunteer experience includes At Work, Issaquah School District Board of Directors, the Issaquah Arts Commission, Together Center Board of Directors, Influence the Choice, The Garage, a teen cafe, and the Kiwanis Campfire Eastside Board of Directors. She was a recipient of the Issaquah Hall of Fame Award, as well as the Issaquah Schools Foundation Golden Apple Award. Please help me welcome Barbara D. Michele.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm running for position number 3, and the reason I'm running is because I want Issaquah to remain the warm and welcoming place it was when I arrived here 35 years ago. When I first came to Issaquah, I was offered a position with the Issaquah School District as their first communications director. And I was able to find an apartment right in downtown Issaquah. I was able to walk to work. My children were able to walk to school. And I was here about 4 months, and I was offered a leadership position with the Issaquah Chamber of Commerce. And that was just amazing to me, because where I lived before, if you were going to be on the Chamber of Commerce board, you had to be enormously wealthy, and I was not. And you had to, in 1985, you had to be a man. And so when I was offered that leadership position, I knew that I had come to someplace different, someplace really warm and welcoming, and this is where I wanted to put down my roots. So from my platform at the chamber and getting to meet everybody there, flash forward 10 years, and I spent 2 terms on the school board during a period when the school district was doubling in size. So we had a lot of tough decisions to make. And then I spent 17 years with the King County Department of Transportation in their community relations. My job there was to go out and help local communities develop plans for transportation. So I learned a lot about transportation there. And then I spent the last 9 years working on youth social services and substance abuse prevention and promoting mental health. My big concern is that affordability, because no longer can young people come here and find affordable housing. So just getting into Issaquah is now blocked for a lot of young people. So
All right, that's time. Sorry.
All right. Thank you so
Sorry about
much.
that. Thank you, Barbara. All right, candidates, are you ready for questions? How about the audience? Are you ready to hear some answers to some questions? Okay, let's do it. And we might, because we're doing pretty good on timing, we might get through 4 or 5 questions. We'll see how we do this. And so I'm going to let you know in the beginning, before I ask the question, I'm going to let you know what the order is going to be. So for the first question, we're going to have Zach, Tim, Michele, then Barbara. Sound good? And you'll each have 2 minutes to answer the question. So question number 1 is a 2-part question. What are your top 3 issues that you plan to address as a city council member, and how will you approach your term on city council in your first 100 days? So the first person to answer that question will be Zach. You have 2 minutes.
Very good. Thank you very much, Renee. My top 3 issues are community engagement, housing affordability, and mobility around town. And so let me explain why community engagement is at the very top of my list, because community engagement is at the center of my campaign. I think that no governing is done without including as many people at the table as possible. And I think city council members have a very active role to play in going out and getting constituent and community engagement. And I think instead of having people come to council meetings and just relying on testimony for what the issues are playing out in the town, city council members should themselves seek out public engagement from the various communities that make up Issaquah. I like to say that a city council that thoughtfully reaches out into the community is not only tapping into a wonderful wealth of knowledge, they're also building strong a sense of trust between people and government. And I think that's what serving in government is all about, really building trust there. And so I think community engagement plays into my affordability and traffic priorities as well. Affordability is obviously a big issue with me. I'm finding it very hard to live in the community that I love as a younger Issaquah resident. So I'd very much like to see, and this is what I'm hearing around town too, that we invest in ensuring we have mixed use, mixed income developments. We align that with where transit routes are in Issaquah. Ensuring that, Lindsey mentioned this earlier, that we're prioritizing ADUs, accessory dwelling units, giving priority to them and even shooting them to the top of the list if that's possible. Whenever we can create affordable options in Issaquah, we need to work on those opportunities. And then traffic, mobility, we need to ensure that we're working with our regional allies, the state and the county, our neighboring cities. The best idea I've heard is to enter into some sort of interlocal agreement with Southeast King County and have some sort of Southeast King County master mobility plan where we all work together to find what are the points across the entire Southeast King County district that will benefit us all, and then go to the table.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
That's time. All right, Tim, you're up.
So my top 3 priorities, the first one is in line with the community that I've heard for the entire time I've lived here, is to address mobility. And so I've dedicated my time to be a member of the Issaquah Traffic Task Force. I've read innumerable studies and project plans, all that good stuff that I think makes me the best candidate to address that in a shortened 2-year term. When it comes to mobility, the 3 things I would think about as we evaluate what to do, first is to be responsive to the citizens of Issaquah. The second is to fulfill the promises that have been made or perceived to our neighborhoods that are out there. I think one of the things that's missing as I think we're getting a little bit of fatigue within the community as we continue to talk about transportation, and it doesn't feel like a lot is getting done. And more than one citizen has come up to me and the word trust has come up. And I think if we prioritize those projects that help reestablish that trust, then when we go back to the community and say, here are our next batch of projects and they're going to address the issues that are really important to you, they're going to be willing to have the city step up and pay for those projects at that point. And the third would be those projects have demonstrable, tangible benefits that address what the community is looking for. The second will be in terms of development. There's a really good contrast if we look at the city floor right now between 2 recent developments that have gone in. One is a large one made by an institutional developer, and they flipped that property without any affordable housing units, made a tremendous profit, and left us with a stoplight that not too many people wanted in the first place. Then we have another development that's kind of behind the Safeway there. It's just recently been completed. We did get 10% affordable units in there. It's a little higher grade aesthetically, and that developer is actually going to be a partner with the community, stay here longer. And whenever possible, we want to partner with those kind of developers that want to be a part of our community, not just turn a profit. And the third thing would be to foster a vibrant economic a business community here. So with Costco completing its headquarters expansion, with Microsoft doing the same, there's soon going to be a lot of square footage in the area. One of the elements of the city's...
All right, sorry, that's time. Michele, or Barbara. Excuse me, nope, Michele, you're next.
You know, there's two Michelles here, so
I
we
know,
have to...
exactly. Go ahead.
So I don't want to be repeating what's been heard, and I want to use my time wisely here. So I'm going to talk about my three issues, which is traffic, growth, and schools. In traffic, let's really focus on a key issue here, and that's Front Street. We have over 30,000 cars a day on Front Street. Let's not discuss how to improve traffic flow on Front Street. We should be discussing on how to stop traffic flow. We have pass-through commuters who are getting from here through our street on Front Street to get to southeast King County cities of Maple Valley and Covington. We should not be turning our internal Front Street, the heart and soul of our community, into a bypass road for pass-through commuters. That should be looking at State Route 18, 900, I-90. We should not be turning our soul of our city into a throughway. Traffic is a big issue. That is one issue that I would be focused on greatly on day one. The other is we need to add transit centers. If you look at Bellevue, the downtown Bellevue Transit Center has no parking. They're focused on transit being bus-to-bus transportation, not driving to a transit center. We should have Southeast King County have more transit centers to move traffic around Issaquah, not down Front Street. My other issue would be on growth issues. We've talked about drawing a line in the sand. No more housing in Issaquah Highlands, no more housing residential in Tallis, no more housing on our foothills. We need to be focused with growth in the valley, and on council, I will be looking at zoning issues and code issues to address height and footprint issues for the development that is going to be going in our valley. And the third is schools. We're focused on walkability. We want our kids to go to schools locally and not get on a bus and being moved around our Issaquah School District. My daughter bought a home a block away from the elementary school. My grandkids are bused. I understand if we work with our school board, the city has the land, the schools have the funding. We can partner together and work with our school district to site schools in our local communities. I did
right on time. Thank you very much, Michele. Barbara, you're up.
Okay. My three top priorities are affordability, as I mentioned, mobility, and making sure that our social service infrastructure keeps pace with growth and the need. So affordability, again, I always give the example of my son, who graduated from Issaquah High School, and when it was time for he and his wife to find a place, they wanted to move back to Issaquah, but they couldn't find anything. Then they tried Renton, they couldn't find anything. Then they finally found a place in Covington. So every day, those cars that come up the Issaquah Hobart Road, one of those is my son, because he's commuting. And so affordability to me is at the root of many, many of our issues, including traffic congestion. We need to try to get more affordable housing so that people can work here and live here. The city did a study, and only 1,600 people in Issaquah actually live and work in Issaquah. We need to do more to increase that. Mobility, I work for King County Department of Transportation, and there is so much that we can do to reduce the number of cars. Nobody up here has mentioned alternative forms of transportation yet. I would promote transit, increased transit usage, carpooling, vanpooling, ride sharing, better walking paths, more bicycling. We need to get people out of their cars and off of our roadways. And finally, The social service infrastructure. We have a network of wonderful organizations in this town that support our community, and they, like everything else, are being impacted by growth. We need to make sure that they are keeping up with the growth and the need, and there are many things that the city can do to support that and help them. They are the heart and soul of Issaquah.
Thank you, Barbara.
Wow.
Right on time. Excellent. I like it. Thank you. All right, for question number 2, here's the order that we will go in. Michele, Tim, Barbara, Zach. So question number 2. The city recently held a hearing for the draft 2020-2025 CIP, otherwise known as the Capital Improvement Plan. What are the top projects you support in the CIP? So Michele, you're first.
We have to understand that the revenue comes from a multitude of sources. So the first is we've got a city budget that is actually handling in our general account one of the main things that I was focused on that I was afraid was going to land in the CIP, and that is the traffic light on 43rd out in front of Providence. I was very pleased to see that our city leaders and our city council has found a way to fund and not be dependent on the CIP for the Providence Point Light. Now let's take a look at what is left on the CIP. There are 6 projects. 2 of them have to do with traffic issues on Newport. We missed a big opportunity there with a major developer who put in a mass number of housing units right off of Newport. Had we modeled this similar to what Redmond did, that developer would have funded an on and off ramp off of I-90 into that development so that that traffic was not on Newport. Our CIP is now stuck with an issue on how we're going to solve our local traffic issues with Newport. I mentioned earlier my concern with Front Street. One of the other CIP projects has to do with expanding Newport down to Sunset and the traffic that also backs up onto Front Street. In order to fund these projects, we're taking a look at what kind of funding resources or revenue sources we have. A transportation levy was voted down by our local voters. They spoke clearly that they didn't want the money spent that way. That leaves us another option, and that is to take a look at a tax increase on sales taxes of 2 basis points. I have some serious concerns on that. Taxes from sales taxes is regressive, and it would put us out of sync with the rest of our neighboring communities. It may not change your buying habits in terms of buying paper towels, but it will probably change your buying habits in buying durable goods, appliances, products for remodeling your home. The study has also not taken a look at how it's going to impact our local businesses with real estate and that finance.
Thank you, Michele.
Thank you.
Tim.
So within our capital improvement plan, the first thing that I noticed was the percentage of it that was dedicated to transportation versus to parks improvement. So one of the pillars of my platform, and I think a lot of my candidates and fellow council members, is protecting our green space. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that we need to triple down on investments in our parks at the expense of some of these transportation projects within the capital improvement plan. I think that we could potentially trim that down or add additional transportation projects into that scope and push off some of the improvements within that parks piece of the equation. The second thing I'll touch on is the sales tax that Michele mentioned. One of the things I favor about that is that it does spread the burden beyond just our residents and is a way to actually potentially generate some revenue from some of this pass-through traffic users of our roadways. What I want to gives me pause a little bit is it's less consistent of a revenue source. So if the revenue or if the economy takes a downturn, you'll see a dip in sales tax, so it's less predictable. And so you, by nature, are going to borrow more conservatively there, which means it's not necessarily as effective as, say, a bond or a levy would be to raise that same sort of revenue. In terms of specific projects, I think the Providence Point stoplight is one. I thought that was in there, and that's one that I've been supportive of for the 6 years I've been involved in local politics here. The pedestrian pathway that connects the South Lake Sammamish communities to the rest of the city here, and those are the 2 prime examples where we're delivering on promises that those portions of the city were perceived when they were annexed within the city, and I think can go a long way in building trust. And then within Newport Way, I think that's obviously a congestion point. Those are quite highly priced. So I'd want to make sure that we're really getting the best bang for our buck as we look at Newport Way and potentially look at some of the other routes, Gilman and the roads that connect them, to address those same issues.
Thank you, Tim. Barbara.
I repeat what my other folks up here have said. The Providence Point light was, and the South Issaquah from South Cove those were two projects that I supported. And I think that it was too bad that it was almost a decade after they were promised that they were delivered. So I want to talk about the proposed tax increase. If I were on the council right now and had to make a choice, I could not vote to put that on the ballot. And the reason is that I think that we have a process that we need to go through. We need to convince our residents of Issaquah that those are solid projects. We need to engage the citizens of Issaquah in either an advisory group or some kind of outreach where those projects are vetted and people are assured that the tax money is going to be used as it is proposed. In addition, we had some pretty startling headlines earlier this summer from the Issaquah Journal regarding the finance department of the city of Issaquah. And I think that the city needs to speak very clearly to the citizens. This is a matter of public trust. Are those issues being addressed, and are our tax dollars being used the way that they are supposed to be used? So I think that those two things need to be done before any kind of tax issue is put on the ballot. I think it's a matter of public trust, and I think that the people need to decide whether or not those projects are the ones that they want to have, and whether they will then vote for that proposed tax measure.
Thank you, Barbara. Zach.
Thank you very much. I just want to start off by saying that it's very encouraging that we're all going to be saying essentially the same thing. It really just goes to show that these projects really are ingrained in the community and they need to be done. So on that note, I'm going to say that my top projects are funding the signal at Providence Point. That's a promise that's been made by the city and it's never been kept. Another one, which fits really close to home, is the passageway along Northwest Sammamish Road. And as a kid, I used to bike that road. I used to walk that road all the time, and I can't tell you the amount of times that I was almost hit by cars. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've been blinded by traffic on I-90 coming the opposite way at night and almost didn't see someone. It is really scary, and I want to thank Councilmember Winterstein and Councilmember Batiste for really pushing this forward and ensuring that we're working in coordination with the state to capitalize on this incredible opportunity. I want to also talk about the proposed sales tax through the CIP. At first I had a number of concerns, the first of which Michele had touched on, and that is the regressivity of a sales tax in itself. Really marginalizes low-income populations, especially when we're trying to push affordable housing and make livability easier here in Issaquah. But as Tim said, I also understand the argument that other people use our roads, they use our businesses, they use our restaurants, and they should pay into the system as well. And I think that's a well thought out argument. Another one is also with the great economy that's going on right now, the potential for a future recession. I know we're supposed to use the word bagel instead of recession just to make sure it doesn't actually happen. But that's concerning to me, and I've yet to really see a dialogue about that. So in the coming weeks, along my listening tour, I'm going across the city. I'm going to be meeting with the city administrator here very shortly to be talking about those concerns that I have. And then I think also there needs to be more community engagement about what projects are actually being funded by the sales tax, so the community knows exactly what.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So question number 3, the order will be Tim, Barbara, Zach, and Michele. In the recent past, there were discussions about citing safe heroin injection sites in King County. Do you support citing a safe heroin injection site in the city of Issaquah? If so, how would you pay for it? If not, why not? So Tim, you're first.
I am not in favor of citing a safe injection site within the city. I play softball at Tibbetts Field every Wednesday night that it doesn't rain. And 2 out of the last 3 weeks that I've been there, we've had vagrants that were hopped up on something that were coming and basically looking for things to steal. Somebody's trying to steal something from an umpire there, and everyone has their families there. And I've looked into this discussion. I think it's bad for our community. I think it's bad for our bottom line. I think it's a regional issue that needs a regional solution. I think if we're the first mover in having a safe injection site in the city, we're literally inviting drug users to our city. We have a relatively small police force. We have 26 officers, only 6 on patrol at any given time for a city of 39,000 people. And if people are going to shoot up heroin and then walk our streets where my kids and I play and walk, we don't have the police force to babysit those folks. We don't have the money to hire the police force to babysit those folks. And frankly, the city is not a healthcare provider. That's outside of our mandate. And like I said, I think it would be bad for our community and for our bottom line.
Thank you, Tim. Barbara.
I would not vote for a safe injection site in Issaquah. 24 years ago, my beloved daughter, Joanne, died as a result of heroin addiction. And I know the horror of addiction, and I know the sorrow, the remaining sorrow that goes with that for years and years. She died 24 years ago of heroin, and here in 2019, we have the worst opioid and heroin overdose issue that we've ever had in the history of this country. So in my humble opinion, the war on drugs has been an abject failure, and we do need to try new things. It doesn't make any sense to place a safe injection site here in Issaquah. It's never been proposed to be placed in Issaquah. King County proposed that it be placed in downtown Seattle and another one in South King County. That makes sense. And I think we need to try things, new things, to combat the opioid crisis. A new report just came out that pharmaceutical companies over the last 7 years have shipped some 76 billion pills to people in America. A lot of people have been swept up into this epidemic who were innocent bystanders, in my opinion. They got legal prescription drugs and they became addicts. So we have to address what is a terrible, terrible epidemic in our country. We have to do that creatively. Issaquah is not the right place to do it.
Thank you, Barbara. Zach.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I'll start off by saying no. I would not vote in favor of that measure, but I'll also say the question is a little frustrating to me because it's not part of the conversation at this point in time. We're not talking about citing a safe injection site in Issaquah, and I've never heard a realistic discussion about it yet. And I think it detracts from our conversation about what we actually need to be doing and what we actually need to be doing or talking about at the state level, at the county level, in our communities, with national partners who understand the opioid and heroin epidemic much better than we do. An epidemic, by the way, that my generation will inherit. So, as an Issaquah City Council member, I look forward to engaging in those conversations. I will not vote to add a safe injection site to the city of Issaquah, but I will also say we do not have enough information about the epidemic right now. And I very much look forward to engaging in conversations with our regional partners about that and with the community about what they need to help protect those less fortunate than us. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Michele.
Let me start by saying no, I would not support it. I need to give you a little more on my background. Before moving into financial services, when I graduated from college, I was a nurse. I worked in a mental health clinic and served in the emergency room working with drug addicts that were brought in on the evening shift. I've worked the issue. I've also worked the business side with health insurance and had the privilege of actually serving as a technical expert in Obama's administration, working with legislative aides that were in the beginning stages of drafting something that later became known as the ACA, or Obamacare by short. I understand the issues, I understand the funding, but I also understand that our city is not to expand its responsibilities beyond the infrastructure of taking care of our local citizens and taking on something that is a federal issue, we have many funding issues on our plate that we're responsible for. Expanding the scope of responsibilities of the city to take on health care is beyond the charter of what a municipality is responsible for. So I say no for many reasons. My business background says no. My health insurance background says no. My local livelihood here with families in Issaquah says no. It is a problem, but I do not agree that it is our municipal's responsibility to take on the cost and the burden for a regional drug injection site.
Thank you, Michele. Let's give a round of applause for the candidates answering those questions. So that ends the questions because we do not have time. And so we will go into our closing statements, and you each will have 2 minutes. And this is the order that was drawn. Barbara will go first, Tim will go second, Zach third, and Michele batting cleanup. So go ahead, Barbara, you have 2 minutes.
So I'm going to use my 2 minutes to talk about social service infrastructure. I made a list here of the organizations I'm talking about: the Downtown Issaquah Association, the Chamber of Commerce, the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, the Garage, the Historic Society, FISH, or also known as Friends of the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery, Village Theater, Friends of Youth, At Work, and Art East, which unfortunately I heard today is closing. Yes, so some of those you may not even think of as being social service agencies, but they're all nonprofits. They all provide service to our community in various ways. They're all beloved, and the important thing they bring to Issaquah is cohesion. If someone from the Highlands and someone from Tallis and someone from Sycamore and someone from South Cove all come together and volunteer at the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, that's what you call community. And so you can't measure the value to our city from those groups. All of them are facing the impacts of growth. The Food and Clothing Bank has outgrown its location. The Historic Society has outgrown its location. We have a great gapping need for sliding scale health services, which is being proposed for the Opportunity Center that the city has already been working on, and I support it very strongly. The city's model is that they put a small amount of money into these organizations, and then those organizations go out on an entrepreneurial basis and raise literally millions of dollars for our community. So I'm using my time entirely here to promote the idea that we really need to support those organizations, and on the council I will be a strong voice for those. I welcome your support. My website is Barb D. Michele for Council, and I hope you'll check that out. I look forward to meeting and talking to you. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Tim.
Since Barb cheated, I'll cheat with one more sentence on the last issue. So I do think for the safe injection site, you know what I think we should do is make sure that our first responders have the proper training and resources to respond. I'm not unsympathetic to the opioid epidemic, but just not a safe injection site in town here. So, I'm running for council because your priorities are my priorities. They're well aligned, and my experience and where I've spent my time dedicated to trying to address transportation mobility, to go and meet with folks. When I need to know about transportation and mobility, I've talked with city officials, I've talked with the lead engineer, I've served on the task force. When I want to learn more about development, I talk with the largest property owner in town. I talk with a developer that did the development that I gave as a good example here. When I want to know about environmental issues, I go to an event where there's pick your poison. There's half a dozen of them in town. And so that's the mentality I'll take to council as well. So I think with my priorities aligned to what I'm hearing from citizens the entire time I've lived here, I think I can truly be the voice of what the citizens want in the city council with my priorities. The second thing I'll touch on is really a matter of kind of fiscal responsibility. The truth is our city has a decent balance right now in reserves in the city, but our trajectory is trending the wrong way. And so to provide the same level of service that we provide this year, next year, the cost is going up. And it's going up much faster than what our revenues are going up. And so we're having to make tough choices about just delivering the same level of service that we're doing today. And then all of us up here have all these good ideas of things to add and improve. But the truth is, the first thing we need to do is maintain what we have, the level of service that we have, the services we provide, not necessarily expand our mandate, but make sure we focus our efforts on mobility, development, protecting our green spaces, and when we can, foster that business community that's going to give back to our community over time. And so with those priorities, I think I'm well aligned, and I'd happy to be your voice on council.
Zach.
Thank you. I've knocked on thousands of Issaquah doors, and I've heard hundreds of Issaquah stories over the last few years. I've heard from families who feel trapped in their neighborhoods because the drive downtown is getting longer and longer during peak traffic hours. I've heard from seniors and young couples that feel like they're being priced out of the community because the cost of living continues to soar. I hear it, and I see it, and I'm living it. Decisions made by the City Council today will define the next generation of living here in Issaquah. Issaquah needs new voices, new perspectives at the table on the City Council as we begin to prepare for our future and take care of the residents who live and contribute in our community right now. And as a younger resident who's concerned for his own future, as a hometown resident who's concerned for the future of the city he loves, I'm up to the job. And before I finish, I also want to just thank my incredible team of endorsers who will be supporting this campaign. I want to thank Issaquah City Council member Victoria Hunt, who you heard from earlier today. I want to thank former Issaquah Mayor Fred Butler, who's here, and also Ava Freisinger. I want to thank former Issaquah City Council member David Kapler. I think I saw him earlier, but he might, oh, there he is. And I want to thank the entire Issaquah delegation to the Washington State House of Representatives. That's State Representative Lisa Callan, Bill Ramos, Tana Sen, and Milan Tai. Your support means so much to me, and your support of the vision of this campaign means so much to me and the people who support it as well. And I also just want to invite you all to visit my website. It's electzachhall.com. That's Z-A-C-H, not K. There you can find information about my priorities, my endorsements, my listening tour, which is currently going on right now, and also just what I truly value here in Issaquah.
Thank you, Zach. Michele.
I'm going to be honest. I'm running for city council for a very selfish reason. I want to preserve the small town community that drew my husband and I here 20 years ago. I want to preserve the ambiance of what makes me very proud to live in Issaquah. As a council member, we need to filter all of our decisions through that focus point. What is it doing to improve the life of our residents? What are we doing to preserve our small town ambiance? Are we protecting Front Street? Are we protecting our open spaces? One of the things that I'm most excited about is our wonderful Parks Department. They have a 6-year plan with over 50 projects on it. But let me tell you, with my business background, the thing that entices me most is not just their plan for connecting Mountain to Sound and Creekside Parks as a necklace for our community. They have a business model underneath that is going to leverage revenue through our park system with such things as the recent professional beach volleyball tournament that went on for 3 days that raised funds and brought money into our community. A business plan to use our existing resources to generate revenue. Our business community and our livability are interconnected. My business background is to make sure that we have a vital business community to support our families here. So yes, I am running for a selfish reason because I bought a home here, I'm retired here, and I'm not leaving. This is going to be a great city for me, for my grandchildren, and for generations to come. Thank you very much. Oh, I need to add one more thing since everyone else did. My flyer in the back has website information, has my phone number on it. Call me, let's talk. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let's give them a big round of applause. And I want to thank all of you. I want to thank our candidates for coming up here, and hopefully the questions were meaningful, and hopefully they were meaningful answers for our voters. I want to thank you for joining us this evening, and those of you that are here may still have questions, and so please stay around. We will be here, and the candidates, I'm sure, will be here for the next half hour or so to answer any questions that you may have that we're not being able to ask today. Now watch the official Issaquah Highlands Facebook page for the video so that you can, this is my ask of you, is that if you can forward the video so that your family, your friends, and your neighbors will be a little more informed voters, because that's the reason why we're doing this evening. It takes a lot to run for office, so thank you on behalf of everyone for running for office, because it's not an easy job. It takes a lot of work and takes a lot of strong fortitude, so thank you. It's very appreciative. Now, we will also share the video through IssaquahHighlands.com as well as our e-newsletter, those of you that are part of the weekly e-newsletter. So with that, thank you, and please enjoy the rest of your evening.